Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
At Villeries Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villeries provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villeries Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969.
Dave Miette Insurance Agency. Auto, home, flood, business, 504-556-0809. Dave Miette, INSagency.com.
For over 48 years, Southern Tires and Auto Repair has provided services across the New Orleans metro area. Southern Tires offers a range of tires for all vehicles and ATVs. We also have a full suite of auto repair options, including brake repair, rim repair, custom exhaust, steering and suspension, tire siping, and so much more. Southern Tires and Auto Repair, 2550 Hickory Avenue in Metairie.
CNC Drugs is a family-owned pharmacy that's been serving Southeast Louisiana for over 50 years. Whether you need help taking care of an elderly family member, a growing child, or even a pet, CNC provides patient-centered care for your entire family. CNC Drugs, large enough to serve you, small enough to know you. Locations in Mandeville and Araby.
Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. Today is a special day. It is the 10th anniversary of our program. It's hard to believe that we've been doing this for 10 years here at WLAE-TV, and of course myself and of course Will, our director, been here since day one, and of course to celebrate it with us is Mike Detillier, who was also here for our 500th show. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Man, if I'd have known it 10 years, we'd have maybe had us some libations.
A couple of libations, yeah,
something like that.
Maybe I should have dressed in a tux, I don't know. Maybe should have went over to Ray Boudreau's place.
Yeah, there you go. Get that rental, baby.
But a lot to talk about today, and of course, great 10 years, and you've been a big part of it. We thank you. It. Mike is, let me say this, every time I've called Mike, Mike's never ever turned us down. I might not be able to do it this week, but hey, I could do it next week, and Mike has been a great guest for us.
Thank
and
you,
a great
Eric.
friend
I
as well.
appreciate that. I get complimented a lot on this. If I send you a text, you answer it quickly. Right. Some people, you send them a text, and is days,
right,
plural,
right.
But I always try to answer the text quickly and let you know one way or another. Can I do it or can I not do it?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's been great working with you.
It's been great working with you, and again, we appreciate your time always. Again, a lot to talk about today. Again, Saints, LSU, Tulane, all on tap for today's program. And at the end of the program, we're going to bring on our director, William Hill, and of course, a little celebration of again, our 10th anniversary show today. Mike, let's get started. Tell us a little bit about WWL. Anything else you got going that you want to let folks know about?
Well, you can hear me every afternoon on WWL, and then now with football season started, Herb Tyler and I, we do Tiger tailgating, leading up to the LSU pregame show that LSU Network. That's on WWL. So we started last week, and it will continue throughout the season. And disappointment to say the least, but yeah, that's the new part of it that involved for 2.5 hours with them. And I always tell Herb, you don't have to worry, dude. I got enough to talk about in 2.5 hours.
There you go.
You can just chime in every once in a while when you need to.
You got the information for sure, no doubt. But let's start off with the Saints, and of course, a big week this week, taking on the Tennessee Titans with, again, their opening game. The national media not too bullish on the Saints in terms of, again, where they think they are in the power rankings. But again, a lot of folks that have been at camp feel like this is a team that has more talent than the previous teams, and Dennis Allen may be feeling a little bit more comfortable in it as the head coach of the New Orleans Saints. You've been at every one of those training camp practices. What's your evaluation?
I think this is a double-digit winning team The last time I came on was a month ago, right before training camp. You know, my feeling is I think you're better at quarterback.
Okay.
Your receiving core has gotten better with the development of Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed, and also Juwan Johnson at tight end. We didn't know about Jimmy Graham at that point, and I think Jimmy can help short yardage red zone. I think this may seem strange, but a lot of people don't like for me to say it, but the commissioner did them a solid. Alvin Kamara, if you look to the rules of how it's set, would have been 6 games.
Yep.
And you maybe could have pleaded down to 4 or 5. You got 3.
Right.
He did you a solid for this season. Not for the first 3, but again, you got 14 games now with Alvin.
Right.
I thought you were lucky to get that from him because I thought he might put the hammer down and it'd be 6 games, especially with a lot of that on tape. You know, do something in Las Vegas, you're going to get caught, Jack.
And it was an NFL sanctioned event.
Defensively, I feel much better about that defensive line today than I did a month ago.
Okay. Why?
Because I saw what Kalen Saunders can do in the middle. I think Nathan Shepard is going to be a nice player for him as a pass rusher.
Right.
Brian Brzee, I think, is going to be their sort of designated pass rusher from the middle.
All right.
I still think he plays a little bit too high in the saddle against the run. And I can get under you and move you around, but, man, he's a really good athlete and get some pass rush on that particular part. Secondary, at corner, I don't ever remember a year with this much talent. If you're healthy, with a Lattimore, Alontae Taylor, and Paulson Adebo. And I really felt good about it. And then Bradley Roby get cut loose on a financial deal. You can spread this all kind of different ways. It was cut loose because of money, bottom line. The safety position, I think, will be better than it was a year ago. Now you have a year with Tyrann Mathieu, Marcus May. Now waiting for the commissioner what he's going to do with Marcus May.
Right.
And the rookie from Minnesota, I thought is really
like Howden a lot?
I like Howden a lot.
Right.
When they would give a veteran day off to Tyrann or Marcus, hey, you were there. Where was the other guys? And it wasn't all this other stuff. He was the guy. So the big question mark for me was at draft time, was at the end of the season, was at the start last year, was the start before then. Offensive line play. And, man, I hear some of them, man, I'm good with the offensive line. What? You can't have watched this team play for the last 2 years if you think that offensive line's good. And you have injuries.
Yes.
And you and I have talked about this. Once it starts, it's like you set dominoes up and you hit the first one. Bang, bang. They all pop after that. So I think the right side's okay with Ramchak. Well, I think still a really good player.
Right.
Cesar Ruiz is serviceable at the right guard. I'll see all this stuff, Pro Football Focus. Oh, man, he's this, he's that. Well, if he's that good, how come the Saints didn't offer him the 1-year option extension?
That's right.
They passed on that. So that tells you what you needed to know even before you ask it. Right. And I like Eric McCoy a lot at center. I can't tell you anything on the left side. Trevor Penning, basically, you can't say he's a rookie, but he's just got a handful of sort of snaps under him at left tackle. Then he has another foot injury, which takes away the offseason. James Hurst becomes maybe a bigger piece of the puzzle than we all thought.
Right.
And then Pete, you know, he's always going to be hurt.
Right.
Always. I can't tell you what's going to happen on the left side. And then you draw the Titans, game 1.
Yeah.
Okay, what's their strength? Their defensive line. So, man, you in for a fist fight come Sunday.
I agree.
I mean, I think it's going to be a real physical game and that sort of thing. But your line is better than their offensive line. Eric, I've done this, it's over 35 years.
Right.
I've never seen offensive line play in depth this bad in the NFL.
Why is that, Mike? You've been doing a long. Why is that?
I think it's a lot of the RPO system does not equate today to what the NFL is doing at all. So you're getting, some guys can adapt, but that's a lot of developmental young players here that, okay, I played in the RPO system, but that doesn't teach you how to be physical.
Yes.
Okay? Anybody watch Florida State and LSU? What happened there?
Yeah.
And who got pushed around?
Right.
Okay? some of that RPO stuff does not equate to the NFL as a whole. And LSU's a physical football team when you look at it in college football, but they weren't Sunday, not against Florida State. So I think what you got here, most teams have a pretty good starting lineup and one guy they can count on. After that, Eric, it's downhill. And I did this about 3 years ago, a study of what positions get hurt the most in the National Football League: tackle, guard, center, cornerback. Okay, so your offensive line can get wiped out pretty quickly. So what happens to the Saints? They try to bring in Trey Turner, okay, for depth. What happens? He goes down. Pete goes down early in camp. Trevor Penning was, at least he stayed healthy throughout the process. Ramczyk, he's on the Johnny Carson. You work, okay. You don't have to do all the Monday through Thursday. You got to show up for Friday. You know?
For the younger viewers, Johnny took some time off.
He took more than a little time off. Too. Oh man, he took a lot of time off, and the most valuable player for them becomes Eric McCoy. And I'm a big believer in centers. I've talked about that for years. He's the orchestra leader, okay? He gets everybody to mesh. I did see who the second string center is in Max Garcia. Okay, yeah, he's a veteran, but that was the reason he was available. And I'm not saying it's Mount Everest drop-off, but it's a pretty good mountain of the drop-off.
That whole second team line was a big drop-off.
And then now you got Landon Young as a backup tackle who was hurt, for weeks. And he hasn't seen much playing time. Again, Hurst and McCoy become really key pieces here. If somebody goes down, you don't have to do 52 shuffle here. You can sort of move one or two pieces. Eric, it's a major concern for me.
I agree.
They did not run the football at all in the preseason. It didn't matter who they were up against. They did not run the ball well. And pass protection is key. Okay, you can have a guy who can throw the football, but if he's horizontal, it doesn't do you any good. Major question mark for me.
I would agree.
And also, the other part is where they struggled last year was their inability to get turnovers. Hopefully that changes. In the history of the Saints franchise, last year set a mark I didn't think would get broken, and that was the least amount of turnovers by a Saints team that they got defensively. Eric, you and I watched some bad Saints teams. They got more turnovers than that team did. And you wonder why you won, 7 games? Okay, that's a big part of it. Offensive line issues, lack of turnovers defensively. So I hate to say it, but the same kind of problems we talked about before last season, we didn't talk about the turnovers because they were getting them. Now that becomes a question mark. Offensive line play. But you look at the division, okay, you got a rookie quarterback in Carolina, you got Baker Mayfield, that's all I need to tell you, in Tampa. And Desmond Ridder, I wouldn't say he's a rookie, but he's got 4 games under his belt. But now they've surrounded him with a pretty good supporting cast. And their front 5 offensive line, I feel much more comfortable with them than I do with the Saints 5. They're going to win a certain way. Can they play defense is going to be the question mark in Atlanta. But I think they get to 10 games, and a big part of it is going to rely on them protecting Derek Carr and getting a better semblance of a running game. I think the defense will be fine unless you get a whole bunch of injuries. I think the defense will be fine. But, man, offensively, inability to run the football, offensive line play is a question mark.
Let's talk about Trevor Penning for a moment. Looks like a guy that can be a really good run blocker, pancaking guys, but a guy that, again, he's got to prove that he can handle, again, the speed pass rushers. How do you think the Saints are going to handle it this year? Are they going to have a tight end on his side? Are they going to chip with a running back? Are they going to leave him on an island? You've seen a lot of him in camp. What do you think happens?
I would give him a little bit of help early.
Okay.
Because they're going to attack that area. Okay.
Of course.
That's what I would do if I was playing against you. I would go after him to see what I got. And, okay, how that all
How's his feet?
His feet look okay. Here's my biggest thing with him, and I see it. Defensive ends set him up. Okay, they'll give him an outside move. Then they give him kind of a half-hearted outside move, cut inside, and it's his ability to adjust to that hard inside move that you're going to get. And man, these guys are pros, and they know how to set you up. And so you might win some battles, but then they're going to make the big play against you. It's how well he adjusts to the speed, and also to develop a little better kind of counter move to that inside maneuver that you see. And I love him as an athlete. I think he's a really good athlete. He's a tough guy. I agree with you as a run blocker. In most times in pass protection, he holds his own. How he gets beat, it's inside. An inside move beats him. And so if I know that, the guys playing against him know it too.
Running back. With Kamara out, Jamal Williams, Miller's been injured. He didn't practice yesterday. They've got Kurt Merritt on the roster. They picked up Mims and also Jones on the practice squad. How do you think they approach the running game without Kamara?
Jamal Williams is going to get a lot of touches, is all I can tell you on that particular part. Tony Jones knows the offense. He's been here before, and he's played there. Sean Payton's offensive scheme and with Carmichael is the same deal. Just different quarterbacks playing it. So you got to have to rely a little bit too on Kirk Merritt, who's making that transition from being a wide receiver. Now, when I saw him in high school, he played everything. He was a running back, wide receiver, played in the slot. He did it across the board. In college, he was basically a receiver. When he came here, he was basically a receiver. And now we see the transition him more as a running back. But I trust Tony Jones. He's been there, done that. Been there, done that. So, but man, heavy load on Jamal Williams early. And the other part about it is the X factor. Taysom Hill. Because, you know,
how do you think they use him this year? Because again, he's been injured through most of the preseason.
I think they use him like they've used him in the past. As a runner. Yeah, and you know, you can set something up to let him throw the football every once in a while because, you know, if I see him in the game, I said, oh, they're going to run it. Let him throw it that one time, and then that safety got to back off. Will he be accurate with the throw is the other part of it. But man, Taysom, north-south, tough guy. Got some wheels on him that get out into the open field. So I think you see Taysom Hill as a runner used more the first 3 games than I think you'll see him used as a runner games 4 through 7, so to speak.
With Hainer out now, he becomes also your third quarterback.
You got to bring in another quarterback.
You think they're bringing another?
Oh yeah, I don't think there's any question. Not because you can. You can bring in
because of the third quarterback room now.
So I'll bring in another quarterback.
Because again, and folks, I know that the rule is new. If you're going to utilize Taysom Hill as a player that's going to play a position other than quarterback, he can't be your emergency third quarterback. So you have to bring in somebody that can do that. You're not going to get that extra spot on the roster on game day.
Yeah, because they were sort of trying to play a little bit of chess with that. And I would.
Me too.
I would have done it too.
If you get one more spot on the roster, come on. On game day?
My thing about it is use him as in that power running situation, which we've seen it in the past with Taysom, and he's good at it, really good at it. And but again, you got to lean on Jamal Williams now. He becomes a big piece of the puzzle as a runner and also as a receiver. Now, we get all kind of nuts that call sometimes about, well, he's such a good receiver, why didn't they throw him the ball at Detroit? No, that wasn't their game plan. But he did go to BYU and catch. Early in his career at Green Bay, he caught the football, and he's going to catch the ball with this team. He's not Alvin Kamara, but they few and far between. And it was so funny. Last week, Jeffrey Simmons addressed that, man, not playing Alvin, he's special. He's a special guy. You know, you had to do different things for Kamara. And so this is Jeffrey Simmons, who really don't say much good about anybody, but he really praised Alvin Kamara about how good of a player he was, and he thought that was a big loss. And I agree for what he brings to the table as a runner and a receiver.
Michael Thomas, what do we see this year?
I still think, man, he can catch that football short, intermediate, you know, if he stays healthy. Is he the Michael Thomas of 2019? I don't need him to be that guy. You know, I don't need him to catch 140 passes. Catch me 80, you know, and stay healthy for double-digit games. And then we talking here. Because now you're going to kind of have to pick your poison when you play the Saints.
Yeah.
With Chris, who I think is quietly developing into a really good player. I thought he was a good player a year ago, good to very good. He's a very good player today, and he's on the verge of maybe taking that next step. And you see it with him. Also, Garrett Wilson with the Jets, similar.
Right.
Not type personalities as a receiver, but both from Ohio State, and you can see their development in year 2. And then what we haven't seen in the preseason, the speed element of Rashid Shaheed.
Right.
Because he scared the bejesus out of you when he's out there.
Right.
Because you know eventually they're going to try to go over the top with it, with him. That keeps you from bringing that safety from the box in to stop the running game. You got to play him legit with Shaheed. But I think the most improved player on this team offensively from a year ago, Juwan Johnson at tight end.
Right.
You know, he was just sort of learning the tight end position. And you see the growth in him as a player.
Right.
How well he can run a route. He catches the ball clean. In the red zone, he finds a little nook and a cranny to get open.
Sure.
And now you got Graham.
Right.
Okay, and I don't need him to be the 2010 or 2011 Graham. I don't need that part. What I need him to be is a guy, red zone, short yardage, where he can have that 6'6" frame, and it's like a basketball player.
Right.
Go up and get the rebound. And we saw it in the final preseason game. He did that. Foster Moreau is going to be your kind of designated blocker for that. And he can also catch the ball over the middle real well. But you needed some more physicality at tight end as a run blocker.
Right.
Foster brings you that.
What do the Saints have in Derek Carr?
I think he wouldn't be a top 10 quarterback for me in this league, but he'd be like in the 11-12 range, 11, 12, 13 range. Very diligent worker, smart with his throws. Always going to be maybe a little bit hot and cold in a game, okay? I'm not talking about game to game, but in a game.
In a game, right.
He does that. But he's got a lot of moxie, a lot of leadership, and that point that he's put more W's up with fourth quarter comebacks than any other quarterback in the NFL since 2014 tells you two things. One, he's a pretty doggone good quarterback. Secondly, the Raiders' defense was lousy.
Yes.
Because they were getting put in that spot for Derek. That's why I think, Eric, the key here is the running game. Because you got to be able to run the football when you need to and have to. I heard Andy Reid talk about this so much over the years that, okay, we don't need to run the football 40 times a game, but when I need to run it, I need it, okay? And it doesn't start in the fourth quarter. That's the other people bring that up. Oh, well, they run the ball in the fourth quarter. Okay, if I stop you 1, 2, 3, guess what you got to do? You got to punt it. If I don't do it early in the game, I'm not going to be able to do it in the fourth quarter.
I agree.
And so that becomes a physical point with the Saints, the physicality. But in this game coming up, the Titans give up 77 yards a game rushing. Now, I've never seen this stat before. They were number 1 in the league in the least amount of yardage in the rushing, 77. And they gave up the most passing yards. And okay, you can say, well, one correlates with the other, and to a certain extent, that's true. But if I throw the football every down, I know what you're doing, I can get after you.
Sure.
So for the Saints, it's key that you give Carr protection, that he can make those short throws, and occasionally try out their corners on the edge. And for the Saints in this game, because of Derrick Henry, I'm committed to the run. Man, I ain't letting you bang me 30 times a game with Derrick Henry. I'm going to put extra people. I tell Paulson and Alante and Lattimore, guys, I hate to break it to you, but you're on your own. We got to stop Derrick. Because one thing with the Titans, they bubble wrap him after the season. Okay, he plays that last game. Okay, go to a practice with the Titans. he's most of the time working on his own. He's got almost like a little, we call it almost like a kid got a sandbox.
Right.
He works in there on the moves and sort of different things with his legs and his arms. And one of the craziest things I saw him do one time, they would put 2 helmets out and they'd throw it in front of him, and he's got the ball and he slams that helmet. Watch him when he runs. One of the first things, if you come at him low, he takes his hand and he almost like jams his fist in his hand on top of your helmet.
Right. Balance, huh?
And so, you kind of get a little bit of a shock with that. And he's a unicorn player in the NFL.
I would agree.
Think about that. Over the last 10 to 12 years, who could compare to him and what he's done throughout that time frame with all those carries? And to look at him, it's like somebody carved him out of stone. He's 6'3.5". He's 255 pounds. He was the 200 meter sprint champ in the state of Florida in 2A. So I asked him one time, how much you weigh when you did that? Oh, he was like, I was sort of light back then, like 217, 218. What? You won the 200 meters and you were 200 and over 210 pounds?
That's moving.
That's moving. And so he is a unique guy. And if he gets his shoulder square, you in trouble.
Yeah.
And I think over the last probably 6 years, he has seen more WLAE moves like a bullfighter than any other player.
This is the
in the well, they made that real quick.
Yeah.
And you see guys in the open field, if he cuts that corner or if he gets an inside movement and cuts, you see those corners and safeties, they eyeing him, but they're not getting too close because one thing you're going to get with him, you might get that hand and he jams you, or he'll run over you or run past you.
Right.
He's a unique player in this league. And now what they do, they go get Tajay Spears, who's a great compliment for Derrick Henry.
I agree with that. This will be the big test for the interior of the Saints defensive line and linebackers, stopping the run, stopping a guy like Derrick Henry in a very physical game on Sunday.
But their offensive line is so bad.
At Tennessee?
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, they're going to be, at the end of the season, it's either going to be the 30th, 31st, 32nd. Derrick Henry makes that offensive line. They do not have one returning starter back on that offensive line that played the same position from a year ago. Their best player is Peter Skoronski, who they picked in round 1 from Northwestern State, from Northwestern in Chicago.
Right.
I thought when he came out of Northwestern, Zach Strief and I talked about, I thought he was the best offensive lineman in the 2023 draft. I didn't know if he could play tackle. He doesn't have the real long arms and all, but man, he's technically really good. So now they've kicked him inside to left guard, and he's going to be a really good left guard. And Austin Brewer, who had started at guard, has played a little center, and now he becomes the center. They're 2 tackles. You need to buy a program to find out these 2 guys. It's not real good, and that used to be a big strength for the Titans. It isn't anymore, but Taylor Lewan and that group all sort of got up in age and injuries. But
So you like the Saints defensive line?
I like the Saints defensive line against that offensive line. I think that Ryan Tannehill, he better get rid of that football pretty quickly, and I think he knows that.
Right.
The X factor now becomes DeAndre Hopkins, because he's the type of guy that if Tannehill gets a quick release, and D-Hop is still a real physical guy. Now, where Father Time is taking a little off his game is with his speed. But, he's not running the sprints here. But he can get the first downs and move it. Now Treylon Burks is back, their first-round pick from a year ago.
Right.
And it was funny, Jim Wyatt, who covers the team, he sent me a film of Treylon Burks, and he's doing the same thing now that Derrick Henry does. They're using the helmets with him, that he's banging. And, you look at Treylon Burks, he's 6'2.5".
Right.
Now, I think his second number's a 3. He's 230-something pounds. At one time, he was 240, 250. He had really gotten heavy. He's a real physical guy downfield. So you sort of know what you're going to get. They're going to come in here, lunch pail, blue collar. Hey, we're not going to dazzle anybody, but hey, listen, it's mano a mano. That's how you're going to beat us.
Yes.
So for the Saints, they got to hit on some big plays, but also they got to keep Derek Carr upright in this football game, because I still question, even though the Titans have redone some things in the secondary, how good that secondary really is.
I want to ask you about the nickelback position for the Saints, Alante Taylor, Amadi. Who goes there? Who's the starter? Who's getting the majority of the snaps?
Oh, it would be Alante Taylor if Marshawn Lattimore is healthy.
Right.
And he did have practice the last couple of days.
Right.
If not, then I know where Taylor's playing. He's playing on the outside. But Alante Taylor's a really talented guy. But I think he feels more comfortable outside. And he has almost sort of said it.
He said it, right.
That he feels more comfortable there. But now you've gotten a couple weeks, and that's what you're going to do. And don't worry about the outside. You know, your job is to cover the slot guy on this deal. Hugo Amadi is a interesting player because he was at one time a verbal commitment to LSU. You know, we interviewed him after practice, and he was like, man, I was a verbal commitment to LSU at Tennessee. And the coaches sent the wrong tape to the wrong school. He wanted to go to Michigan because they had been interested, but he wanted to stay in the South. And when Les got fired and Coach O took over, that staff wasn't as high on him as Les's group. So they sent, instead of sending it to Michigan, they sent that tape to Oregon. They see him and signed him. He didn't even take a visit.
Wow.
So, but he's a smart player. He gets it. He's around the football, Eric. He's a ball hawk.
Right.
He really, really is. And interesting ride to get here. That he's one of the few players that, man, I can think of. Okay, you grew up in Tennessee. You go to University of Oregon after you could committed to LSU, and he sort of bounced around a little bit with Seattle, and now he's with the Saints. I think he's found a spot in that slot.
Yeah. Before we go to break, Will, give me a minute here. Specialist, kicker, punter, the changeover, your thoughts?
Well, if Shaheed's back there, I'm feel pretty good.
Okay.
You know, I feel pretty good about it. Man, listen, first time I saw Groupie, Bobby made the comment to me, Mike, we could sneak him into a high school game. Ain't nobody would know any difference. And the first time we saw him kick, it was like, whoa, he can kick it. Then, one practice, he hit a 59-yarder with a little room to spare.
Right.
I told Bobby, they ain't got 31 other kickers this good. You know, I mean, you know, so, and it was close. And I always thought that they would end up with Lutz. And maybe Groupie, they would maybe have a deal and send him to somewhere else. It surprised me a little bit.
Me too.
Because I really thought they would keep the veteran.
Me too.
He's been there, done that.
Right.
The punting part, they both were consistently inconsistent every day in watching them. Some days Gillikin would have a good day. Sometimes it was the Australian that had a good day. And but he's cool under pressure. You can tell. Nothing really bothers
Which
him.
Gilligan wasn't.
Man, 2 years ago, he was as good as you could find in those directional kicks inside the 10 and in the 5.
Right.
But last year, we didn't see any of that.
Shank and punch.
And then, in that final preseason game, he gives you a little bit of it again. And I think they made the decision, you know what? We're going to go with the kid.
Yeah.
You know, and I say kid, he's a 30-year-old rookie, but he's a kid to the NFL.
Sure.
But think about, you grew up in Australia. You go to City of San Francisco Community College, end up in Miami, now New Orleans. So you've lived in Australia, San Francisco, Miami, and New Orleans.
That's not a bad deal.
Not bad.
Bad deal. Mike Detillier.
So I'm just hoping he can be consistent. And the key for a punter today, getting balls inside the 10-yard line.
No doubt. Mike Detillier is our guest. I'm Eric Asher. You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports. We'll hear from our underwriters when we come back. LSU Tulane on tap. Stick around.
Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration has been family-owned and operated since 1989. Burkhart has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhart's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhart's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort for life.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar.
Acadian Custom Shutters is locally owned and operated, specializing in interior and exterior shutters and window coverings, as well as awnings and patio covers. Acadian Custom Shutters offers American products with personal service and workmanship, serving the South Shore, North Shore, and Mississippi Gulf Coast. More information is available at 985-893-3119 or AcadianCustomShutters.com.
You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Mike Detillier of WLAE Radio is our guest today. Let's go to LSU. Again, fifth in the nation coming into the Florida State game. They are now 14th in the AP and the coaches poll. 45-24 win for Florida State. Mike, I'm telling you, there were two things that I think everybody took from this game. The domination in the second half by Florida State, the physical domination of LSU, and the inability for the coaches to adjust. That's kind of been the theme this week on my program, I'm sure on yours as well. You saw this game, your thoughts on what you saw, and I haven't seen an LSU team dominate like that in a long time.
They didn't get beat. They got beat up.
Yeah.
I don't mean physically beat up.
Right.
And that was a surprise to me. You returned 4 of your 5 starting offensive linemen. Mm-hmm. Look how many guys up in that front 7 you returned.
Right.
And you got beat up. And here's the crazy part about it. In the second half, Eric, I'm not sure they didn't throw the towel in.
Right. It felt like
almost like a trainer threw the white towel in. Right. Florida State took it to them. And, I was telling this to Bobby that, before the season, people asked me to do things, what's your prediction here and there for magazine-wise, everything else. And I thought Florida State going into the game was a top 5 team in the country. Okay, you got Jordan Travis at quarterback, who's really good. Right. They had 4 of their 5 starting offensive linemen return. Johnny Wilson, how do you cover him? He's 6'7.5". Keon Coleman I knew a lot about. He's from Opelousas. Right. And he put up nice numbers at Michigan State, but that team was so bad. And Trey Benson is a Mississippi kid, goes to Oregon, transfers from Oregon, and he transfers to Florida State. I didn't know about their secondary, and I think that was the question mark going into this game. Now, if you look at it, LSU had some receivers open. The problem was they were dropping passes, and secondly, man, the pressure on Jaden Daniels. The right side of LSU's offensive line got caved in on virtually every pass play. Right. Oh, you can blame Jaden Daniels, and they got some people for whatever they want to do. Oh, we want to see Nussmeier. Okay, put him in there and see. Garrett can't move around like that, and Jaden made this at least competitive in the first half. But Florida State got it after him, and I was surprised just how they were out physical. They got out coached, outplayed, out hustled, and at the end, they hit you with the hammer. That final touchdown. Okay, LSU scored at the end. So what? Man, when you score that many consecutive times into it, that's shocking to me.
Right, and the exclamation point at the end, right? I mean, just,
Yeah, it was almost like they stuck you the middle finger at the end and say, I dare you. You know, we told you how good we were. And their misuse of Harold Perkins is staggering to me.
It's mind-blowing.
Okay, you knew 2 weeks earlier Mason Smith wasn't going to be there. You mean to tell me you couldn't figure out something that Harold Perkins could be used, which he does best, and that is rush the quarterback. Okay, you want to play him at linebacker? I get it. I understand all the logic with that. You're not playing your regular quarterback this week. Jordan Travis is the best quarterback LSU will play all season long. And I said this before the game, and I can really say it now. They're the best team LSU will play all season long, Florida State. They are that good. Now, here's their ditch they haven't jumped. They've lost 7 straight times to Clemson. And we saw Monday night Duke take it to Clemson. But still, it becomes a mental deal, Eric. Okay, you haven't beaten them. But boy, if Clemson plays like they did Monday night and Florida State plays anything close to what they did Sunday, ain't gonna be no contest. The crazy thing, look at the numbers Jordan Travis put up. He had 5 drops in that game. 5.
Right.
My thing is, Mike Norvell said it Wednesday in his press conference, okay, our numbers look great. Just think what we could have done. 4 of the 5 would have been first downs at the time of the catch.
Right. They were getting yards after catch.
And it's hard. But Keon was somebody I knew really wanted to play. He had always wanted to go to LSU. They didn't offer him originally. He was sort of a B-list guy for Coach O and their crew. And then when he starts to leave Michigan State, he kind of lets them know, hey, I want to come back home and play for LSU. No room at the end. Okay, that's the way it's going to be. I'm going to show you how good I am.
Right.
Eric, they got quite a unit.
Yeah.
But LSU played bad.
Yeah.
And that's no excuse for what happened in the second half defensively.
I want to ask a couple questions. I want to go back to Perkins. I said this week, if you got Lawrence Taylor, you don't try to make him Mike Singletary.
No.
Okay? They got to figure this out. Look, I understand that, again, maybe Kelly for the best for the kid down the line, wanting to learn the linebacker position, but even the pros, they're going to put him in a position where he's going to be successful. And again, if he can run down running backs and he can affect the quarterback, those guys make big money. So I just don't understand, the push here to make him a middle linebacker, and I'm hoping they're going to re-examine this now going forward.
Well, I would hope so too, but my thing is, when you come play for me at LSU or Tulane or Florida State and Texas, is my job to get you ready for the NFL?
No.
My job is to get you ready to play college football for me.
That's right.
I mean, okay, the pros will develop you the way they want you to. I never understood that logic. I get what they were trying to do with him.
I understand that as well.
But my thing is, his greatest strength is his ability to get off the edge and get up the field.
Be a playmaker.
And if you let Travis do what he did in that game, 0 sacks.
Right.
And I went back. He had 4 pressures. Every time you got pressure on him, he got away from it and he hit an open receiver. Now, 2 of the 4, they dropped. But again, it goes to show his talent as a quarterback. To me, Harold Perkins, you got to be able to use him from time to time as a pass rush specialist. Why are you trying to reinvent the wheel here?
Especially with Mason Smith and Wingo on the inside. Again, they have to account for those players as well as, obviously, Harold Perkins.
Okay, 2 guys who really played well in this game. One was Mason Taylor at tight end. Man, I thought Mason really played well.
He did.
Secondly, Mekhi Wingo.
Yeah.
In the first half, he was more in the backfield than Trey Benson was, and he plays running back. I mean, every play, he was crashing inside. So what they did, you saw it was the double team. That deal is, man, none of these other guys.
Team one time.
Well, none of these other guys are getting no penetration.
Right.
So, man, we got to take care of Mekhi Wingo. And then he wore down. He was on the field for so long.
Right.
But, man, Mekhi shows what type of player he is. Now you get Mason back. And
he'll be on a snap count, at least.
Yeah, I think early on, I don't even believe the 30 count.
Right.
I think he's more of the 20-22 count on that deal. But Mason's a special player from the standpoint. I saw him in high school. He grew up not far from where I live. And as a freshman, you saw what he could do to get penetration and pressure. Now, okay, he's a 300-pound man. Not a lot of guys can get a rush like what Mason Smith can do. And we saw that his freshman season. And the few plays he made against Florida State last year, he was in the backfield just like Mekhi was. So I think you'll see a little bit of him against Grambling. They really want him ready.
Mississippi State.
For Mississippi State and that role. But look at who you play. Does any of those teams scare you till you get to Alabama? You got Florida. They, just like LSU, they got beat up against Utah. Ole Miss, I think we're going to find out a lot more about them. And I know offensively they're always going to be good. And Judkins at running back, he's a load. And Jackson Dart seems to me to be a better quarterback than what I saw him throw a year ago. I don't know about their defense. But Mississippi State, Florida, come on. You should be able to roll this into Alabama.
Right.
Now, toward the end, Alabama, and I think the most improved team from a year ago in the SEC is Texas A&M.
Okay.
Because of Bobby Petrino. Come on, you can be hard-headed a lot in life, but you can't be hard-headed about you got to be the CEO and turn that over to somebody who knows what they're doing.
Right.
One thing with Petrino, you might not like what he does away from the game, and that's all questionable. But that sucker can coach.
Yeah. I did want to ask about the corner position, and of course, which again struggled. We thought it would. But Mike, if you don't get a pass rush, they're going to be exposed every game.
Yeah, I agree with that. And again, it's a philosophy that Brian has sort of changed a little bit on, because we heard him say back in December, I don't want this to be quick fixes every year. We have to recruit and develop cornerbacks. Tell me one of them that they got out of high school and developed. That list is real short.
Yeah.
Because there's none.
None.
So you're going to have
Stamps
to.
is the guy that they're trying now, right?
Right. But my thing is, okay, look who ends up being your starters. You got Chestnut from Syracuse.
Alexander.
You got Zy Alexander from Southeastern Louisiana. Denver Harris got talent.
Right.
But he's also got issues that you don't know. Okay, come on. You got to grow up.
Right.
You're a 5-star recruit. That means nothing when you hit the college football. You're given more chances, but you got to make it work.
Right.
You can't act like a spoiled brat when you're getting beat by a third-string receiver. And that's what was happening. He was mouthing off. And I think Brian had enough of it. But, you know, you're going to get a lot more chances that way. But we see Stamps come in as a freshman. Are you going to trust that freshman out there on the edge? And so you got to make that decision. Same thing like last year with LaTerrence Welch,
Right.
who I thought had a good spring and summer. You got to trust them. But, man, there are days of DBU at corner and all the corners that come out of this state.
Right.
And you go on everywhere. Now, I get the quick fix.
Right.
Because you needed it. You needed it. That cupboard was sort of low.
Yes.
Not sort of low, it was low at corner. But you got to have something in place now that you're bringing in corners
Year after year.
each year
Right.
as true freshmen.
Right. And they're not going in the transfer portal. You're developing, they're staying. I agree. Tulane, 22nd in the coaches poll, 24th in AP. The first 3 games of the season are really going to be the tail of the tape for them again, and they got a big win against South Alabama last weekend, Ole Miss this weekend, and then of course USM next week, and then Texas San Antonio to end the season. 37-17, a great win. It starts with Michael Pratt, and he was
awesome.
He was magnificent.
I mean, you couldn't really ask him to do anything better than what he did. His utilization of receivers. The running back committee, I think Coach Fritz would like one guy.
Well, Hughes kind of showed
and
something.
Hughes showed me a lot.
He really did.
And I think eventually he becomes the guy. If we run in full by 400 meters, he's running anchor. He becomes the anchor guy. You can say next man up.
Right.
Okay, you know how I feel about that. That's a bunch of horse hockey. There's nobody that's as good as Tajay. And so you had to do it early to figure out who's going to be that guy.
Right.
And he looks to be.
He does. He looks the part.
He looks the part. Your offensive line play, I thought I would give it a good grade. I thought they did a really nice job in pass protection. And South Alabama sold out of, we're going to stop the run. And Michael Pratt's not beating us. And it was, he sure did.
Yes, he did.
And then see a guy from on the River Parish, Jaquan Jackson. Man, he's fast. And to see him make those 3 catches and 2 of them end up in the end zone. Yeah. Now, toward the end of that game, Mike got banged up, and you saw him sort of limping around a little bit. How healthy he's going to be against Ole Miss.
Right.
If I'm Ole Miss, I'm going to figure out real quick how healthy you are, because I'm going to go after you.
Well, Mike, that's one of the questions, right? Why having him in at the end of the game?
I didn't get it.
I mean, I didn't understand. I understand, look, the coach is, that's his guy. He wants to do the victory. Get him out of there. And again, that was a tough hit. And look, we'll see again how he plays it. The other guy is Corey Platt, who had a great game at linebacker, who again looks like he's got an Achilles injury. He's done for the year now.
Yeah, and so,
you know, so that really hurts them.
And he was a guy they were really counting on because of the fact you lose Dorian Williams, you lose Nick Anderson, and he was going to be one of those stalwarts on defense. And you lose him to that. But listen, injuries happen.
Right. Well, they have Grubbs. Machado. There's another kid. I'm missing his name right now. But those are the three guys they're going to have playing their linebacker position now.
And here's the thing about Ole Miss. That's a big misconception. Everybody says, "Oh, Lane always wants to throw the football." No, you don't. They have always been, when he's been there, one of the leaders in rushing the football.
Right.
But he ain't never had a dude like what he got now. And Quinshon Judkins, Tulane's going to get a mouthful of him.
Right.
And he came out in Alabama as a freshman. Eric, I don't think he was 190 pounds coming out of high school. But he picked up weight. He physically got stronger. He was a first-team All-SEC player, and he was basically like a second-team All-American across the board last year. He's not super fast. What he's really good at, he's super quick. And for an 18-year-old, his vision, his ability, once they kind of give him the ball, he sees where that opening is. He's one cut, bang, go up the middle. And his eyes are like this. Just watch him when he runs, because I watch that for a runner. Some runners, when they running downfield, they looking down.
Right, no.
I'm like, oh, that ain't good, man. You're going to take some awful shots.
Right.
Watch Judkins. His eyes are wide open, and he's looking ahead. And I got a feeling what Ole Miss is going to try to do, they're going to try to wear Tulane down, saying, you know what, your first team, my first team, yeah, we're pretty close.
Yeah.
But we think we got better depth. Second team, we got better depth. And so I'm going to wear you down in that heat, okay?
2:30 in the afternoon.
Okay, it ain't cool in Jackson, Mississippi. They got heat like what we got here too. So it's an interesting game and a huge game for both.
I agree.
And I think Lane put it best this week. This is like playing an SEC team. I think Lane's absolutely right about it.
You look at the offensive defensive lines, they're big. I mean, you got to look at Freelo and Jenkins and Cooper and Deal on the defensive line. Those guys are big dudes.
And they have a quarterback that's intriguing to me in Jackson Dart. He was the number 2 rated quarterback in the country coming out of high school. So he goes to USC and he starts as a true freshman. And then all of a sudden, what? Caleb Williams is coming here? Goodbye, boys. I got to go. And he goes to Ole Miss. I thought last year he was so erratic throwing the football. But he got wheels. And I told this to somebody covering Ole Miss, and they said, I hadn't heard it that way. You know, you don't think of California quarterbacks as runners.
Right.
You know, that's not the first thing you think of. Jackson Dart can run with the ball.
Yeah.
You know, if he's cornered, he's going to run, and he can really motor upfield. You can't gauge him by what they did. Mercer, okay, 73-7. Okay, Mercer, that's. But one thing I saw in watching him, his fundamentals, how he set up, how he threw the football over the top, his ability to spot the open receiver is so cleaner than it was a year ago. And then they make the big catch. They go and get Trey Harris. Okay, and Trey was a kid I saw in high school at Como High School. He was a quarterback there. He goes to Louisiana Tech. And I think he said, you know, I better be a lot of this. And he had a lot of offers once he left Tech, and he goes to Ole Miss. And look what he did last weekend. 3 touchdowns and 6 catches. And he's a big receiver, but he got some speed. And the one thing with Lane, he's going to find out where you have a soft spot in the secondary. But I think it all starts with, if I'm Tulane, I have to stop Judkins. Because if I don't, it's going to be just like the Titans with Derrick Henry. They're going to feed him and feed him and then go over the top once my safeties start to come in. So it's a big test for Tulane. Huge test for them. It's amazing. Last week against South Alabama, they only gave up 2 plays of 15 yards or more defensively. Eric, in today's game it's unheard of. that is really good defensively. But you lost a key piece there, and you're playing a different guy, a different sort of individual when you tackle Ole Miss. What I don't know about Ole Miss is how good they are on defense. and how good of a pass rush. Because I think the key is, can Tulane affect Jackson Dart?
Right.
And can Ole Miss affect Michael Pratt?
There you go. Mike, we're going to take a pause here for a second. Want to bring out William Hill, our director. Again, as mentioned, as we opened up the show today. Today is the 10th anniversary of our program. Actually, it was on September the 5th, but today again being the first week of the new year for us. And since the inception of this program 10 years ago, there's been one constant. It's been myself and this guy right here, William Hill. Will, again, it's been a great ride. Thank you for everything you've done for in putting this show together. And since the audience get to hear from you, give us your perspective.
Well, I appreciate Mike. I appreciate you, Eric. I mean, the work that our staff does, the crew does. And if it wasn't for these reporters coming here and you and all the knowledge that you guys provide to our viewers every week, we wouldn't have this show. So here's to 10 more.
Yeah, you're right.
You know, one of the first things I remember doing the show with Will, and he sees me sit there, he's like, do you have anything in front of you, like a piece of paper?
Right.
Man, I don't do nothing, no script, man. Right. You don't have to worry about that, Will. I've done a lot of it, but man, this show wouldn't be the same without you, Will. You've done a great job. So I got the memo in, maybe get you a raise.
There you go. We can always use that, right?
Yes, sir. Yes,
and I definitely, again, concur with everything that Mike just said. Mike said, we've been a tandem, a team since day one, and again, it's been a lot of fun, and it's been some great shows as well. You were here for our 500th. You're here for our 10th anniversary. We appreciate you and all the reporters.
So maybe I'll be here for the 1,000th.
Yeah, and maybe the 20th.
And the 20th. How about that?
Hey, from your mouth to God's ears on that one. No doubt about it. Will, congratulations. And
congratulations, Will, man. Deserve it, baby.
No doubt about it. Best in the business right there. Again, William Hill. Want to thank again all the underwriters that make this program possible. Again, we could not have done 10 years here on WLAE without the underwriters that make our show possible, and all the great reporters. Again, the talk show hosts. Again, those guys on TV, radio, newspaper, podcast. I mean, this is kind of spread out a lot more than what it used to be, right? Again, with so many ways. Again, you are getting your information now. All those individuals who give us their time each and every week on this program. We are so blessed and so grateful for each and every one of those individuals who have given us so much over these 10 years, and Mike's been a big part of that as well. We appreciate the audience, those guys that have been with us again since the inception of this program, those that are just following us now. Again, we've got a great audience that is stuck with us, and of course all the individuals that have worked behind the scenes here over the last 10 years that have made this show possible. We appreciate each and every one of them. And it was like yesterday, I was telling Ron Yeager this earlier today. Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, and I sitting in a room talking about the possibility of this program going off, and of course now 10 years later, again, Inside New Orleans Sports having an opportunity to win the Press Club Award a few years ago, and continuing again to hopefully put out great product each and every week. Mike, thanks for what you do.
Thank you,
WWL Radio,
appreciate
what you've done with us.
And William, always great when you ask me to come on the show, and I enjoy being here.
I appreciate you. I tell you, folks, again, I make the text, make the call. I can't do it this week, but I can do it next week. Has never turned me down, and I very much appreciate it. To you, the audience, thanks so much again for being part of our program. Going back for the early days when we took phone calls. Again, now we take the text with the YouTube. But we appreciate each and every one of you. Again, for Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, of course, William Hill. I want to thank Logan Graffia, Alex Chacon, Danielle Wick, and all the folks here at WLAE-TV and our folks here on Inside New Orleans Sports. Thank you for watching our program. We'll see you next week for another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports.